Faith Under the Lights podcast. Make sure to subscribe and share.
Good morning, family. I hope everybody had a good night's sleep. Hope everybody's getting ready to go out and face the day. It is all of 4:02 a.m. once again. I'm sitting out in front of this gym looking at it. I don't know if you can hear me all that well, or if you can hear what's going on outside, but it's raining pretty good right now. And it just it reminded me in my spirit of some things that a lot of times we'll look at in the wrong light. In the physical right now, it's not a beautiful day, but in the spiritual, it can be, because of the man that we serve. We serve a man who owns the wind and the waves, a man who commands the winds and the wave. And in our spiritual walk, a lot of times we'll forget that. You know, and this physical rain, it is what it is. And I'm not trying to be hyper spiritual, but you can be, and you can look at it and you can say, you know, a lot of times in this life, there are storms coming that I didn't anticipate. You know, I woke up this morning, I didn't expect it to rain this morning. And sure enough, it has rained ever since I woke up. And sometimes that's what life is. Sometimes you think everything's going to go okay. Sometimes you make all these plans. You have all these ideas and things you're going to do. And then next thing you know, here comes a storm that you weren't prepared for. But regardless of the storm, here I am. The only thing you can do, is be disciplined and push through and do what you say you're going to do. The storm's going to be the storm, and you can't change every time the storm comes. And when I think of storms and I think of what's gonna try to deter me or knock me off my path of where I'm trying to get, I think about Jesus. I think about him in Luke chapter 8. I'm going to read this passage and it will break it down quickly. It says, Luke chapter 8, verse 22, it says, "Now it happened on a certain day that he got in a boat with his disciples, and he said to them," remember this, "Let us cross over to the other side of the lake." And they launched out. But as they sailed, he fell asleep, and a windstorm came down on the lake. And they were filling with water and were in jeopardy. And they came to him and awoke, saying, "Master, Master, we are perishing." Then he arose and rebuked the wind and the raging of the water, and they ceased, and they were calm. But he said to them, "Where is your faith?" And they were afraid and marveled, saying to one another, "Who can this be? For he commands even the winds and the water, and they obey him." What a beautiful scene. And it relates to this morning. You know, this Bible can get you through any situation. There's a lot of gray matter. There's a lot of things. It doesn't go into every single detail of your life. But what you can do is relate every detail of your life to something that's in this word. So what is the key takeaway from this passage that we read this morning? The key takeaway is that Jesus will allow you to go through storms. There's nothing wrong with storms. We have to embrace them. We absolutely have to embrace them. A faith that has never been tested cannot be trusted. If we're going to trust our faith, then our faith has to walk through some things. And whatever your storm may be, it might be different than somebody else's. It can't knock you off the path. So the key takeaway from this scripture is that Jesus is in the boat. And Jesus said something that was going to happen. And a lot of times we'll hear Jesus, we'll feel Jesus telling us that this is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to do. And then the storms come. And then all of a sudden you lose all faith in what he said was going to happen. But Jesus started this journey by saying, "Let us go to the other side." There was never a time that they were not going to make it to the other side. The wind came, the waters came, they were flooding, they were freaking out. It makes total sense in the physical that they were scared to death that they were not going to make it to the other side. But they forgot that the sovereign ruler of the universe said, "We are going to the other side." And that wind comes and that storm comes, and it's easy to lose faith in that moment, but you cannot lose faith in the promises of God. You cannot lose faith in the promises of God. That is the question that Jesus asked them. As Jesus is sleeping, because he knows where he's headed, he's not surprised at all by what's coming. The only question he asked me says, "Where is your faith?" So I ask you this morning, as you get out and you go out and you're ready to take on the day and do what needs to happen and become a better person and become a more devout follower of Christ, ask yourself that question. Where is my faith? Where is my faith? What is going to happen when, not if, but when those storms arise, what's going to happen? Pray for a heavier dose of faith. Pray for more understanding. And where you don't have understanding, that's where faith arises all the more. We trust in Jesus. We put our hope in God. We pursue him. And hey, let's go to the other side. Love you guys. I hope you have a great day. God bless.